Alright, what's going on, guys? Today is April 21st. I'm going to be reviewing today's price action in the one trade that I took today. I unfortunately just recorded a whole 15-minute market review and I didn't have my mic on. So we're going to go back through and do this again. But let's just go ahead and start off on the higher time frame here. Right on the higher time frame, I'm still bullish, right? We're at all-time highs. We did just get a nice liquidity sweep of this high. But I'm still going to be longing. I just don't see any reason to be going short in this market right here, especially from all-time highs and just with the distribution that we've had over the past couple of weeks here. So I want to take longs, and that was kind of my bias for the day, was just longs. But before that, I needed to see price come into a key level, right? And for me, that was this 1 hour fair value gap that we left open. We also got an inverse here of this slight 1 hour fair value gap, leading us to go higher and take out this high. But I still just wanted to see price come out, come lower. Sorry, distribute lower, take out some of this LR that we had below, right? Take out some of this LR, manipulate lower, and sweep this obvious low inside of this 15-minute fair value gap as well. That's kind of what I was looking for. We also had session highs and session lows, right? So we had London low right here, and we had Asia low right here. So I was really keen on price sweeping out these session lows, delivering into my key level, and then giving us longs out of this, right? I saw a lot of people who wanted to take shorts today down to this area, right? Maybe something like this, and then take shorts down to this level. But for me, it just made more sense to want to long from this level, right? So maybe we get something like this, and then like, boom, a long opportunity. And then we take this up to buy side up here, right? So that's kind of the idea that I had for today. This was my major buy side that I wanted to see price take out today. So that's kind of what I was looking for. I just wanted to see price manipulate lower off open, tap into my key level, sweep out this low, deliver from this 15-minute and this hourly, and take us higher, right? We also had a 5-minute fair value gap right here, unmitigated fair value gap right here. So maybe I saw price manipulate into this off open and deliver us lower. In that case, maybe shorts would have been an option, but um, I really was just keen on taking longs out of this key level, right? So that is what I wanted to see happen from open, and that was my bias for the day. Going into market open, though, this is what we saw. We saw price immediately dump, right? Take out these session lows, take out Asia and London, take out all this LR, deliver into our key level, sweep out this low inside this 15-minute fair value gap. And originally, we did have an SMT at this low, so that would have made this made my bias even more A plus and longs even more A plus, delivering from this area right here. But ES ended up coming down, taking out this low, removing our SMT. And we still were SMT'd from, I can't remember where it was. I think it was these lows perhaps, right? So we still were SMT'd, but just not an obvious SMT. But it is still an SMT inside of our key level here. So that made me even more convicted in longs, in that price would play out of my key level. So that is what I was looking for at this point in the market. And moving on, we see a 930 wick above, which is a very strong draw on liquidity, right? Almost plays like a data high or a data low. So I really want to see this 930 wick get taken out, and I'll leave that as one of my draws on liquidity for the day, as well as this unfilled 5-minute. And then we also had this high inside of this 5-minute fair value gap right here, as well as this high inside this fair value gap right here. But yeah, I just want to see longs play out of this. And as you can see, we just kind of chopped around here. And then we end up opening up a 5-minute fair value gap. So for me to take longs here, I do want to see this 5-minute get inverse. This is our highest time frame inversion. But I knew that it was kind of unlikely for us to, get a close like right here, and then have a good stop loss position to be able to go for a one to one. I knew that the odds of us closing right there were probably pretty low. We were probably going to get a fill like right here, or maybe even above this 930 high, which would invalidate my trade setup for this stage of the markets at least, right? So that's just kind of what I was thinking at this point right here, especially with this chop. It made me very confident that I wanted to see this 5-minute fully close. So we end up coming up, and I saw a couple people take a long out of this setup right here, which isn't bad. I mean, this is just pure ICT concepts delivering back down into a fair value gap. Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking there. But yeah, you see price come down into this fair value gap, deliver, and then we get a change of state of delivery to the upside. And in all reality, this trade it wasn't bad, right? You just target this 930 high, because the entry model is, what is gonna, take us to our draw on liquidity. But when your draw on liquidity is so strong, being this 930 high, and then we have this amazing displacement out of this 1 hour fair value gap and liquidity sweep out of this 15-minute, like, your entry model becomes a little bit less important than just getting into the market with good confluences when your higher time frame key level lines up and your draw on liquidity is there. So I understood why people took this, and this was a great setup, just targeting this 930 high, and it would have played out pretty immediately, right? So would have played out right there. So that was okay setup that I saw this morning, and then as well as this 2-minute long, right? So could have taken this 2-minute long of the inverse of this giant 2-minute gap. But for me, again, I just wasn't really convicted in this 2-minute long. I really wanted to see this 5-minute close. But in hindsight, looking back, it's something to work. It's something to learn from and look on. That sometimes I always don't need to wait for the highest time frame inversion if my confluences are lining up, my drawn liquidity is there, and I have delivery from a higher time frame key level, right? So just something I need to focus on, back test, learn from, and all of the above, right? So that was also a good trade opportunity that I saw, and this would have played out pretty instantly. So that was an okay opportunity, but for me, just being in the stage of my trading where I'm at, I do want to execute pretty mechanically and earn my discretion. So I would have liked to wait for this highest time frame inversion being the 5-minute, right? And this pretty much invalidated my trade setup here. When we closed above this 930 wick, I wanted that to be my break-even point and target all this LR. Right, so low resistance liquidity run. I wanted to target that, and then maybe this 5-minute unmitigated for value gap, and then eventually targeting major buy setup here, right? So this just kind of invalidated my trade setup. So I forgot about this 5-minute long, decided I was going to fade the setup. Just didn't play out the way that I wanted to. The RR wasn't really there, so I ended up fading this setup right here. And at this point, price didn't give us too much until right here, right? So again, I saw some people talking about this 5-minute long here, which off this order block, disrespecting this order block, inversing this 5-minute fair value gap, targeting major buy side. For me, it just didn't make sense, right? Just because we left all of these 5-minute gaps below. There is the price has the ability to rebalance itself before moving higher. And I just didn't really like the stop loss placement, right? We created so many inception gaps below in the 1 minute. And so for me, it just didn't make too much sense. This also acted as a BPR, right? So balanced price range. So again, I just knew price had the possibility of retracing lower, and so I wasn't really convicted in this 5-minute long, especially this time premium. Yes, your drawn liquidity was there, but it just didn't make too much sense to me, and I wasn't convicted in the long. So I ended up fading that setup. Let me go back to NQ. So I ended up fading that setup, and it also took out all my LR that I really did want to target, right? So at this point, just my trade ideas are being invalidated, and I just have to be careful with the selection of my trades after this. After my bias worked out perfectly and my key level was tapped into, and I just didn't get my setup right. So need to be careful now. And then the Fed chair also began testifying at 10 a.m. So we had news coming on. So anything, taking any trades from about 10 to 11 a.m. was kind of, I don't want to say low probability, but definitely not as high probability as it usually would be, right? Whenever we have no news like, the Fed chair testifying, right? So that is just kind of what I was looking at and keeping in mind. Eventually you do get this short setup right here, which again, I just didn't want to take shorts here. I'd rather wait for price to rebalance itself, being like, right here, and then you go lower, take us into like this 5-minute, boom, we reject, and then take longs to the upside, right? So I would have rather waited for something like this compared to this, mech model type trade, which would have played out, but it just went against my bias. And I know sometimes you do have to adapt the markets, but for me in this scenario, it really just didn't make sense to me. I wasn't convicted in this short, but looking back on it, it definitely was a good trade. We were delivering out of this 15-minute still, so it was a good trade. And if you took it, nice, you probably banked. And the RR was pretty great, right? You just stops above this high. I probably would have gone stops above here since we are reversing, right? So I want to give price the ability to come up higher if it needs to be, instead of just, wicking me out. And then 5-minute unfilled down below would have been the target, and this would have played out beautifully as well. So this was another great setup that I saw today, looking back. But in live time, it just wasn't obvious to me. I would have rather waited for price to rebalance itself in this 5-minute and then look for a long opportunity out of it, right? So that is kind of what I was thinking at that time. And eventually, this leads to the trade that I ended up taking. So price delivers into the 5-minute. And at this point, I am looking for longs out of this to take us to our major buy side as well as minor buy side. So this is what I was looking for. And in hindsight, probably could have waited for price to achieve a discount to make this a little bit more high probability, right? To reach somewhere below this level. We also had this 5-minute gap acting as a BPR below. So probably could have waited for something like that in hindsight, but I ended up taking this trade right here. Off this 1-minute inversion, delivery into the 5-minute, just a little bit of a continuation model. And I ended up getting in right here. I had my stops below this low. And I was targeting major buy side, scaling at minor buy side. But we did open up at 3-minute, so I was going to go break even the second we entered this 3-minute. And yeah, that is the trade that I took today. I ended up getting very lucky here. Price rebalanced lower, looked like it was going to stop me out. Hit my break even before stopping me out at break even, right? And then I got very lucky because we would have just gotten caught up in the chop and then eventually stopped out, right? And so I got very lucky on that trade. It wasn't a plus setup. It would have been probably a plus if we achieved a discount. But, in all honesty, the Fed chair was testifying. We hadn't achieved a discount. We already got our really big move for the day, right? Taking out this LR, taking out 930 highs. And yeah, that's really what I saw on that trade. So definitely wasn't A plus, but it wasn't a terrible setup. Probably a B rating. So I'm not mad. I don't feel like I broke my rules here at all. I think that I followed my rules and just got out on a good break-even point, and I got very lucky, right? So at that point, I see price achieve a discount here. I want to see us respect this 5-minute, respect this 5-minute BPR, and maybe give us a possible long opportunity here. And we did create a beautiful 1-minute. So if this would have gotten inversed, I would have surely taken this. Probably would have gotten break even at this swing high. And again, targeted the minor and major buy side. But it's not what the market wanted to do. Market ended up just trailing lower, right, before coming to take out all these lows, which at this point I just understood that my bias was wrong at this point. We weren't going to go any higher. We wanted to move lower, and especially once I see this inversion of this 5-minute BPR on this huge death candle, I knew we were going to come for these lows, and then with the possibility of just continuing lower here, right? We did have some draws in the 4-hour, being these lows down here. So I assumed that my bias was just wrong at this point, and it was probably a good point for me to get off the charts after taking this break-even trade as well. So yeah, that is pretty much what I saw for the day. After this point, there was really nothing. You do get this 5-minute inversion, and hopefully no one took this, just because, right, we did open up a 15-minute. We get the inverse and then immediately reject out of the 15-minute, so just not high probability. You're also delivering from no higher time frame gap. No 15-minute. We still are yet to run all this LR. So yeah, this trade just wasn't good at all. Hopefully no one took that. And at this point, there was nothing. Price ends up chopping, taking us to present time here. Price just ends up chopping this whole way, continuing to move us lower in a downtrend. We get a minor rebalance to the upside, and I still don't think that this bearish move is all the way done yet, right? Maybe I'm wrong. We do end up projecting off this wick, taking us higher and continuing to all-time highs, but realistically, I think at some point we'll come up, down, sweep out these lows, maybe deliver from this 4-hour, and then take us higher. But I don't know, right? We could be we could be looking at the market switching to bearish structure for a little while. We do have a lot of room to retrace, right, with all these gaps. So do have a lot of room to retrace. We could be looking at bear structure over the next couple days, but I don't want to be too confident in that, just the way the market's been moving. I still, am taking longs until proven otherwise, right? So yeah, that is really all I saw today. There were a couple of good opportunities to make money in the markets this morning, but nothing that really convicted me heavily. I got very lucky on this trade, getting stopped at a break even before getting inside the chop. And yeah, this was probably the best setups of the day. But again, I just wasn't convicted, right? I wanted to see this highest time frame gap close right here. But it's just something I need to learn from, back test, figure out when I need to be taking the highest time frame inversion and when I can fade the highest time frame inversion, and just understand that my draw on liquidity is very, very strong and all my other confluences aligned. So just something to back test, to learn from, and to go collect data on. But yeah, that's really all I saw today. Hopefully you guys made some money this morning or just protected your capital. And yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for me. I'll be back for another backtesting session later on. And I'll see you guys later.